Welcome back, ladies. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that's probably a little less sexy than our past week's episodes.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the logistics of love.
Ooh.
And what that means is, you found a partner, you're ready to combine lives or move in together. But there are some things to think about that I think people forget because they think love is everything, right? You're infatuated, you're in love, and you think that that's all you need to make a relationship thrive. But I'm here to tell you that there are 5 things you must think about before you make that leap. Are we ready? I'm ready. Let's go.
Hello.
Are we going to hope that our camera works today?
I'm praying. I prayed last night and I'm praying now. So let's see.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't know what to say. We've never had issues like this before, and I don't think it's our camera setup. I don't think it's just been weird. Anyways, it's our ongoing saga. We're gonna get to the bottom of this and figure it out, but we're just hoping and praying that the tech gods are on our side today because we have some important shit to talk about.
We don't want to get cut off. And it always happens you're in the middle of a thought.
Right.
And then it's like, and then you're like, okay, where was I? What was I talking about?
And I never remember, and I go off on a tangent. Notice how we're talking really fast because we're in fear mode.
And I'm like, we need to get it in before 45 minutes or else we're getting cut off. So we need to, no messing around.
No, the second time we got cut off, it was like 15 minutes
That's
in.
true.
So here we go. I was going to talk about this week, but now I'm afraid.
Oh no, we could do a little chat.
Please.
I was gonna say because you had it's not that exciting. If you're a parent, it's probably exciting,
right?
The baby's sleeping in his room.
Oh my god, that is a huge.
That's
thing.
what I was like. I don't even have kids, but I'm like, I think that's a big deal. And he walks upstairs now.
He is starting. We feel like he's gonna start walking in the next. I feel it in the next week or so. He's just trying to get his confidence. Like he does take little mini steps, but then he's like, I need to hold on to somebody. But he does go upstairs. And the biggest thing is we finally moved him into his own room. That has been such a freeing experience. I didn't realize how much codependency I had as a mom.
So it's not even him, it's you.
Yes, it's more me. He is pretty codependent, but once we moved him into the room, he's like, so far, I don't want to jinx myself.
No, don't jinx it.
Right. But he's doing so good, and it's so nice because I just get into bed, and I don't even know. I'm like,
what
can I turn on the TV?
Yeah.
I feel like a little kid, like in a candy store. Like I feel like I'm like finally able to use my room.
Yeah.
And just like watch a little TV. Of course,
She still doesn't watch TV.
Every time I turn on the TV, I fall asleep in 2.5 seconds. So it hasn't worked out for me yet, but the thought alone is freeing.
Ooh, the thought of watching Real Housewives in bed.
Is there a good...
I haven't watched it in probably 3 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm the wrong person to ask.
Yeah. Okay. So today... Chrissy and I, whenever we do the planning for these episodes, we just really want, sometimes they come from episodes that we've been planning before. And then other times they come from emails and then things that we know would help you that we don't think is being talked about or discussed enough.
Well, I think, did we come up with this? We were talking to your cousin, and she watches every episode
with notes.
She has a notebook that is just for questions for every episode. So then she's like, I have questions, and then we have to sit down and go over them.
Right.
And I think that also added to this because she was asking me because I'm in a long distance relationship and I'm in Vegas. He's in Florida, and she's like, if you love each other, why don't you move there? I'm like, it's not that simple though. So I think that also sparked a little inspiration.
And that I think a lot of long distance relationships get because a lot of people just feel like if you love each other, well then why don't you just like make that big step? Like what's keeping you here and what's keeping him there?
Bills. I'm like, love
can you
doesn't pay my bills.
I don't know if we're allowed to
Can
sing
you
that.
pay my automobiles? Okay.
So we want to get into things that are just not glamorous. It's outside, but the thing about the logistics and the reason why, we want to discuss it is because love is so broad and so general. But, in order to make a relationship work long term, which last week we went into kind of the 8 signs it won't work. And the last one was it's not practical. We want to make sure that the relationship is practical. It's aligning to you and your values. But there's some logistics to think about. And yeah, love is not enough. In order for love to flourish, the logistics have to be worked out. And I'm sorry, my nose is running.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think in the beginning of a relationship, everything's so exciting, so new, and you kind of will ignore red flags. You'll ignore certain things, but then the excitement fades away, and then you realize these issues were there all along, but you were just caught in the excitement of everything.
Right. You neglect to see. I know we're going to be answering an email, but most of the emails that we get where relationships didn't pan out logistically, the signs were there.
Yeah.
And so I want us to kind of get into the not so glamorous side of things that make a relationship work. And we'll be sharing our personal stories as well on the way. I definitely think that once you use these, if you think about these 5 things, I think it'll just, especially with combining lives, I think it'll help majorly.
Yes.
So the first thing that, we need to look at before, you move in with somebody or before you combine lives is looking at the lifestyle. And that means what you do on a daily basis. This can also mean, not just, your job and working out and, all the things that we do like lifestyle, getting your hair done, getting your nails done. What is it that you do, as hobbies and interests and all those things, but also just like your beliefs and, if you are a part of a church, things that are currently your lifestyle. And we talked a lot about values last episode, but really diving into what are the things that I, currently, how do I live my life currently? And will this be, will my lifestyle be amplified with this person? Do we have similar lifestyles? Because, if you are somebody who loves to work out and do your own thing, and then you are combining your life with somebody who likes to stay at home. Oh. Unless they don't have an issue with it, that might be a problem, right? For you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, hello, we got things to like, I want to do things. I want to see you do things. So just making sure that your lifestyles match. If you are someone who is likes to go out, and have nice dinners because you work really hard and you can do that for yourself. And then you're combining your life with a partner who doesn't have those same, not that they have to, but doesn't have those same interests or sees it as, oh, you're spending money.
Yeah, because then they'll think of it as a waste of money, not a nice experience.
Right. That's something to look at. And these are the micro things that are just like, you don't think about, but if you enjoy something, you want to make sure you can continue enjoying it with the person that you're with. And so it's really getting into all the things that you love to do, even if they sound a little high maintenance or bougie. I was talking to Chrissy and I was just like, if Andrew and I divorced today, I would have, I would need to make sure that the way, obviously lifestyle changes. I have a particular lifestyle and, I've worked hard for this lifestyle. And so, that would be really hard for me to get in a partnership with somebody who didn't honor that, the same things. And it's not about being materialistic or, again, getting into, pointing the finger at who's being bougie. I know a lot of people might be watching this and being like, you guys are high maintenance, but, there's a girl on Instagram that I follow and she's amazing. She does talks about skincare. Her name is Nam. I think it's Nam.
Oh.
Anyways, when she talks about products that are super expensive, she goes, these products ain't cheap, but neither are you.
Ooh, I like that.
Anyways, but you don't have to, you could be bougie on a budget too. And those are things to talk about as well. So making sure that your lifestyle, things that you do on a daily basis, your job, your routines, things that you love to do monthly, if it's getting your nails done, getting your hair done, or maybe going out with your girlfriends, things like that. Making sure that you look at that as a whole and seeing if this partner is going to, if combining your life with this person is going to seem reasonable, you know, or is it going to, to them seem like you're, what am I trying to say?
Well, I think it would just be if they don't agree with it, then maybe they'll make you feel guilty for doing things that bring you happiness.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I can't relate to this, but what about if there's a huge difference in income? Do you think that there can be cases where men might be intimidated by a woman that earns more money?
Well, we're going to go into finances because that is a huge, huge one. And let's just go into it now. So security is huge and the financial talk is important. And I think a lot of people neglect that, you know, especially when both partners work and, you know, you're just like, okay, well, we're just going to live together and we're going to share bills. Okay. But you need to be very, very clear about what bills you have. You need the debt income ratio is really, really important. That conversation, knowing how much each other makes and what you're willing to split and who's going to take care of what, is really, really important. If you have one partner, like you said, that makes more money, then that is a conversation to see what's reasonable for both of you to, you know, maybe one partner does take on more of the financial responsibility, but how do you show up or your partner shows up? If one person is taking one responsibility, how does the other person take responsibility for other areas of your life together, to ease the burden of the logistics, you know, in the home life? You know, there's always relationships are all about partnerships. And we talked about a little bit about this last week, you know, going into, or in the previous week when we talked about that superior complex in the relationship where I see a lot of unhealthy breadwinners, you know, using it to cast like this shadow over their partner, when, you know, their partner could be running the show for that person to make X, Y's, and Z's. So looking at your relationship in the ways of, okay, this is, you know, here's the money talk. Here are the bills. This is what's going to sustain our lifestyle together. You know, this is what I require. This is what you require. This is what I like to do. This is what you like to do. Sure, there is some budgeting required, especially if you guys are working paycheck to paycheck, but this is all the things that you need to speak about. If you do have one partner who is willing to say, hey, I will take some of the financial burden, then it's that conversation that opens up of what is it that, you know, I can do to show up in this relationship to ease that burden and or amplify it, you know. So going back to the talk of me and Andrew when we started in a relationship, I quit my job. That was super risky for me. It was like I was going all in on my relationship. And that's not easy for someone who's worked since 14, you know? So for me, I had to, you know, it's that risk versus reward, which we're going to talk about. And I actually have an activity that I think would help you guys, and we'll create a PDF down below. You know, I had to minimize that risk in a way for me because I have bills to pay and I'm going all in on this relationship and we're moving to Macau for him to play. And, you know, this is all new and we were in the grind of our lives. And what I mean by that, the grind of our lives, is both of us working together as a unit, grinding it out to build what we have right now. And it's, you know, again, I spoke about this last time, but it's him being at the forefront of what he's doing and me behind the scenes making it work. And so I think a lot of beautiful partnerships work that way. But it gets unhealthy when one person has a superior, you know, a superiority or, you know, that complex and cast a shadow on their partner because they make the money without, you know, appreciating all that their partner does. And that can cause a lot of tension in their relationship. And it leaves one of the partners feeling like less than, and that they're not doing anything, that they're not purposeful. And why this, and I'll continue my story so that we can kind of really get into the nitty gritty of this, of the money talk. I remember I had, and still have, I feel like he's around me anyways. Rest in peace, Joe. Joe and Maureen, my beautiful mentors. When I was about to quit my job, they had told me one of the things that they've done and had worked for them for 50 years is Maureen at the time, didn't work when they were building their life together and stuff like that. And Joe did. But Maureen handled all the finances, paid all the bills, managed the household, did all of that. So Joe was at the forefront. She was managing literally everything else. And one of the things that she required and asked for, even though it was their money, was I'm going to, I want an allowance. And that sounded weird, right? Like, an allowance? What do you mean an allowance? Like, this is your money, it's our money together. We're married. And she said, no, I want my own money. I want an allowance out of our money because I want to be able to save that. I want to be able to do what I want to do. If I want to buy you a gift, I don't want to take it out of our money. I want it to come from me. So that's something that they set up, their whole lives. And that's something I drew out of and I set up right away with Andrew. Because I truly think that, the money isn't energy, it's value. And, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's an energy. It's a big elephant in the room, especially with women who are in relationships and fear leaving relationships because they don't have anything to their name. They have something together, their money is tied together, but they have no independence from that relationship. And that makes it really hard. Also, it drains from the relationship because there's this fear-based tension in the relationship. I want, when we talk about love, it's beautiful to love someone. And I believe love can flourish if there's beautiful structure that provides that net for that love. Mm-hmm. When you don't have these logistics in line and in order, it allows for a lot of that fear. Because if going back to, okay, sorry, let me bring what Maureen said to me and how I implemented it into our life. So once I knew that, okay, we're in a relationship and it would benefit us both of us, not just business wise, but our relationship, if I made that leap and quit my job. That wasn't an easy decision. But in order for me to do that, I needed to make sure there was a little net.
Yes.
And so the little net came in the form of a conversation with Andrew when I've never in my whole life asked for money. And, I come up from very humble beginnings and poor. And and this was something that was really, really important to me because if I'm not going to be working, I also still have my bills to pay. And there is a chance, not that I'm aiming for this or, trying to forecast this, there is a chance that this relationship does not work out. So I sat Andrew down and I said, this is going to be extremely uncomfortable for me because I really, I want us to go to Macau and, do what we need to do and build our life together and how that manifests and whatever. But I have bills.
Yeah.
And I have a lifestyle that I would love to maintain. It's not a bougie one. At that time, it wasn't bougie. But I'd have a lifestyle that I'd like to maintain because it's what I've maintained for myself for many years. And this is how much it is. And if you're willing to give me an allowance, see, this is where
it's like you're asking your parent.
Right. An allowance is not a beautiful word, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Of course, it was my funny way of throwing in, like, can I have an allowance? And it was just for us to, joke and laugh about it. But this is how much, my lifestyle is, and pretty much how it's going to be. As long as that those things are taken care of, it'll be very, very easy for me to contribute to our vision together and to grind in your business as well.
And you won't feel like you're giving anything up by helping him and moving with him.
Right. Because I think the number one thing that a lot of people fear is, especially, and we're using this generally with women who, there are women who are money makers and the breadwinners. And so this conversation would go in the other way. But the fear that most generally, if we were speaking to women, which we are, if they were in this situation, is that once, I make this move into this relationship and give up whatever it is you're giving up, X, Y's, and Z's, and making sure that, you're not giving up anything that will compromise your values and things that are important to you. That's not what the job that I gave up was a pretty easy move because I saw the potential of me and Andrew. And also I was starting to work towards doing what I wanted to do, which was getting into coaching.
Did it feel like you were giving up some of your independence though?
No.
Really?
So it would have felt that way if I didn't have that money talk, because I have the lifestyle that I want to sustain.
Oh.
Yes.
Because that's my biggest fear, is feeling like I'm giving up my independence. So that's good to know.
Yeah. So when you structure it in this way, first it's allowing your partner, if this is the situation, we'll bring in other scenarios too. If the scenario is that, you have someone who is, that you're making the leap for, and you're combining lives, and they, pretty much their business is at the forefront, and maybe, you're giving up some of, the things that you're doing, maybe to help them. Because the thing with me and Andrew is when we made that leap together, everything in our lives amplified. Yeah, it was a risk. The risk was I'm gonna go with homeboy, quit my job, right? What if things don't work out? Okay. What if things don't work out, and don't have a job and I don't have money? And that was like my worst fear. But then I minimized those fears. So when we look at the exercise that we'll kind of talk about later, is when you think of a risk and then you think of the fear that's tied to that risk, you want to do everything you can to minimize that fear. So what are the logical steps to minimize that fear? Okay, I'm out of a job. True. Could I possibly get a job? Absolutely. I have, definitely am qualified, if I needed to go back into hospitality. Money. How can I minimize that fear? Okay, well, my partner at this time, it's reasonable to ask if we're making this leap together for my bills to get paid and for, some of my lifestyle to, the allowance, can I have an allowance? That helped me at that time, because then it's like, okay, well then I can go all in with the two fears that were pretty, much at the forefront taken care of. So then going all in did what? Well, Andrew and I did the grind of our life, I call it. It was crazy because, again, it was like us, and still is, not so much anymore, but, us working on his business and who he is and what he's doing. And I was in the back end and he was at the, in the front. And us doing that has amplified everything in our life. It's amplified our relationship vision. It's amplified, our life outside of it. It's, we've been able to contribute to our families and contribute to other people. We've created a life that we've never thought imaginable, because it's just compounded, because I was able to make that leap and we've became a unit and We both have our strengths, and we were able to make that work and literally amplify our life. So that, is something, again, it was a risk I was willing to take, but I had to minimize it in a way so that I felt fully invested in this relationship. Because if I was going to quit my job, but still not have the necessary conversations to minimize that risk, I would have been super fearful making that leap. I wouldn't have given my all. I probably wouldn't have helped that much because I'm so I probably would have become resentful.
Yes.
And we wouldn't have had everything we have now. So it sounds like, and here's the thing, going back to empowerment in relationships as it relates to money. You don't have to be the breadwinner. And this is in quotations, because when you're a unit, you're both breadwinners. You don't have to be the breadwinner to feel empowered in the relationship. The relationship should be should amplify your strengths as well. So you have a role in any relationship. You have a role that you're playing in, and you want to make sure that there's a partnership and it's coming from that equal partnership, which we talked about last week. You don't want anyone holding it over your head that they're making money while you're not doing anything to contribute. And so that's why if at any point you feel fearful in making a leap like that in a relationship where there is one person that either makes more money or is going to be the financial breadwinner, these are the conversations that you have to have so that you don't feel so fearful and so that you can give your all to this relationship. The other thing with finances, and something that you and I talked about that I tell everyone to do.
Oh, is it what I think it is? Because this is the best advice ever.
Is married or single, each person should have their own bank account.
Yeah.
You can have your joint bank account where, that's all the household and things you're doing together and bills and, whatever it is that are combined. So whether you both are working and contributing to that account, or, you have one person who is managing the finances and putting that in the account, you would discuss the agreed amount that goes into both your separate accounts so that each person feels free in their own way. So you have your joint account that facilitates all of the, household logistics and things that you're doing together. And then you have your separate account so that you don't feel bad about going to get your hair done, getting your nails done, going and doing things with your girlfriends, or buying your partner a gift. Or even more than that, you can save in that account for your own things. And then that could even go back into your joint, that you can even use that money that you've saved to go back into your relationship or things that you're doing, or even if you have kids and funding them and all of those things. But having your own accounts, I think does wonders for relationships because it creates more financial freedom. Even if you're working paycheck to paycheck, it doesn't have to be a grand amount. If you have $20 left over, get into the habit of splitting it 10-10, right? Creating just a structure, because here's the thing. When Andrew and I, having this talk, we weren't at the, the financial freedom that we are right now, us having these money talks were we were still in the grind of our lives, as I like to call it. But creating that structure and creating these practices sets you up for when things start falling into place. And if you both are working on your visions and dreams and you guys are just, currently working paycheck to paycheck, getting into the practice of these, these things that don't sound very glamorous, but splitting it and creating and setting the terms of the agreement, like how much are we splitting into our accounts, getting into the practice so that when you guys start making more money, that just you just have more money to split into your accounts and you have more freedom. And that's something that I share with a lot of people. So single, either you're moving in with somebody or married. I think I think everyone should have their own bank accounts.
So when do you start having these conversations? Is it when you're thinking about moving in with somebody, or
Before
my mom
moving in with somebody?
When my mom was married, they didn't even have any joint accounts together. Everything was separate.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me because I feel like you should share something because you have the same expenses and you're married. So it was always weird to me that they had separate accounts, but it was because they had different spending styles.
Right.
So one person liked to, well, they both kind of liked to, but one was on another level of spending than the other. So they couldn't trust each other for how they were going to spend. So they could never have a joint account and be happy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's, and you don't necessarily need a joint account.
Yeah.
You know, if you have someone who you trust, to manage, you know, if the terms are agreed that one person is handling
rent or mortgage.
Rent, you know, home, all of that, bills, and they have their way of doing it and you trust that, then that's up to you. And that if that feels good, then that's important. You know, you don't necessarily need a joint account. Joint just meaning if you both are contributing to paying bills or, you know, but that
you could have separate and then say
separate.
Okay. So say I'm covering groceries, I'm covering utilities. You're going to cover everything else. Then we just we decide who's covering what. And that just comes out of each of our separate accounts.
Yes. This works for people who are financially stable.
Yep.
And also can manage their money, you know, appropriately. If you know you can't manage your money, you know, and it's hard for you to pay bills and you're on the struggle bus with this, this is something your partner needs to know. These are not the fun things that, because if you trust one partner, you know, we're not going to get a joint account, but you trust the partner to handle, these are the bills that you're taking on. These are the bills I'm taking on. But one person doesn't know how to manage their money.
Or they don't pay the rent that month.
And they don't pay.
Oh, no.
And you're trusting. That's an issue that's not going to work for you long term. So these things need to be, you know, these are the conversations that aren't glamorous, but need to be had before moving in with somebody, before combining lives. What's the structure so that I feel safe, that we're not, you know, running ourselves into debt? What is your debt? What are you paying for currently each month? You know, what's realistic for you to cover? You know, so everybody thinks, oh, we found love and then we're going to move in together and we're going to save on bills. Are you? Are you going to save on bills though? Because if you don't know what that person, their spending habits or what their debt is, you're going to have all these expectations of going into this, like thinking, I found the one and we're going to be saving on bills and we might as well just live together. And then you're going to have a rude reality check. So that's why this is really, really important. So going back to my conversation with Andrew, I had to go into, this guy is amazing. I can see myself with him. So it's going into my intuition. My intuition is, I can see, you know, the potential for a good partnership is there, which I think a lot of people feel.
How long had you been together at that point?
We were together before moving to Macau for a year and a half.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then we were friends before that.
Yeah.
So then, you know, it's that intuition, great. We all have an intuition. We all want to, you know, we have the filter of the rosy posy glasses that everything's going to work out just fine. Oh my goodness, I get to quit my job and travel. Oh my goodness. No, that's not how I felt. Okay. Quitting my job was the hardest decision. And it was just like, what do I do now? Right. So then it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, these are my two fears. How am I going to minimize those fears? What can I do now to take action to make sure that if I do make this huge leap, I feel better about it. I feel lighter. And Andrew doesn't feel like he's at fault if something doesn't work out. So that's the conversation I had. It's not like I was like, this is my lifestyle when and lying about what my bills are and what's realistic to me. This is like the bare minimum in order for me to feel safe. Right. Cause it's not like we were working with a lot, it's, being reasonable with him. And then from there, we were able to build off of that, and create that empire.
It's kind of like, people hate prenups because they hate thinking about what's going to happen and they don't think it's romantic. Like prenups aren't romantic, but they're logistically sound.
Yes.
And it's good to plan, but people don't like it because it's not romantic. Similar to talking about this stuff, it's not romantic.
It's not romantic, but it works. It allows when you get these logistics clear, that's when the relationship can flourish. Then you don't need to worry about this. Then you can just have your relationship. Then you can be in love. Then you both can bring your strengths to the relationship and serve the relationship because you have all of this in order. The next thing, outside of just, because we all want that financial independence, and you can be independent. Going back to your question, you can be independent in a relationship, even though you're not the breadwinner. Every person needs to feel independent in the relationship in order for a relationship to flourish. So what does that look like to you? What's going to help you feel that way? Is that going to be something that your partner is willing to do? And then going back to couples who are also in the grind of their lives, who are both working and working paycheck to paycheck, it's the same thing. Make sure you're very, very clear about what bills you both have and what you guys are going to be building from, and getting into small practices so that when you start working more and more on your life vision and making, more money in the future, if that's where you're going, that you have these practices in place to set you guys up for even more financial freedom. That makes sense?
It did to me.
Okay. If you have any questions about that, just, comment below. It's something that I feel it's not fun. It's not a fun conversation, and you could do it in your own way, and you can set it up. And, I had the numbers before speaking, to your partner. If that's the situation for you, getting the numbers, even if you guys are both working and you both are breadwinners, here are my bills. This is my lifestyle needs. This is how much it is for me to go to the gym. This is how much I spend going out with my friends. This is my number. I know you just made a funny before the camera came out. What? You said I would just show up with my Excel.
Oh no, I would have an Excel spreadsheet. I'd be like, this is my budget. This is my budget. These are like miscellaneous maybes I would love to. These are necessities. Mm-hmm. These are extras. These are like special splurges. Yep. So I would have them all itemized as well. So I'd have like my basic budget, then my extra budget, then my extra budget.
Yeah. Just the extras and extras on top of extras. Just in case.
But
she doesn't ask for much, guys.
No, but I'll take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no,
I could take care of you. So,
yes. And also going back to the question, what if one partner makes more money than I do? You both are breadwinners. So, regardless if your partner makes a significant amount more than you need to honor the money you do make. You need to, because it's like a lot of times we can feel like, oh my God, I'm not contributing like my partner contributes. No, you are. And when you come with that energy, you're taking away from the relationship. You're taking from the abundance that you could be amplifying in this relationship when you feel like you're not, contributing. So even if you make small amount of money compared to your partner, it's still something, and it's still something to honor. You want to honor every dollar. You want to honor every role, all the time spent, the service, everything that you do. So whether you make money or you don't, you want to honor every bit that you contribute to the relationship. And it's not keeping score. It's coming from a place of, I know what I can give, and I know how my role in amplifying this relationship and our vision. Again, yes, in the beginning, Andrew was at the forefront and I was in the back end managing, and we take turns doing that role quite a bit. So, if you have any questions about that topic, please comment below. The third thing to really think about before combining limes.
Not lemons, but limes.
Limes. I'm just thinking about margaritas. Is family.
Oh.
What's the family dynamic with the person that you're you're combining lives with? Like, are they close with their family? What do they do for holidays? Where do they go? What is it that you guys are going to do? Since you guys live together, are you bringing the traditions home to your house? Are you guys going to take turns going to each other's houses? Are you going separately? What's the whole deal with that? Also, like how like if you are moving in with somebody who has family over all the time, you probably should know that, right? If they're super close and they want their family, near them at all times, you may not know that when you're dating, right? Because you get to see them solo. But you may want to know that. That goes with friends too. If you're dating somebody who requires a full-on entourage every time, you might want to know that before you move in with somebody. If you value alone time, but somebody else loves to be, with people and have that entourage, that's something you're going to need to know. Because when you move in with somebody and they got people over all the time, you're going to feel like you're not enough, because they always want people, but really it's just who they are and what they value. So you really need to know that about a person. And friends and families are important. So really diving into what's, that kind of goes into a little bit about lifestyle too, but what is it that you and your family do? And what are we going to, on Christmas Day, my family celebrates, and then maybe their family celebrates on Christmas Eve. So working out those kinks, because now that you're living together, you might be spending some family time.
I would not have even thought of that.
That's something to think about.
Something.
The fourth thing to think about is the risk versus reward, which I gave you an example of a risk, of mine that I was willing to take for me and Andrew's relationship, quitting my job and everything. Anytime I look at a risk or something that could be risky for me, I look at all the fears attached to it, and then I look at how I'm going to minimize those risks, and then what the grand reward is. Like what is it that you're going to be gaining if you take this leap? So again, a lot of the times, we look at the reward before looking at the logistics and the risks and, all those things. So we leap towards the reward, but we don't think about the things that could really get in the way of that.
I think I do the opposite.
Yeah.
I look at the risks before I think of the reward.
And you want to still come from an abundance, and this isn't like super, super positive, but you want to look at it in a way where there are good feelings, right? Even the talk that there's that you can potentially combine lives, that's beautiful. That means you're going somewhere. You're working towards something. There's momentum. You guys are creating something. You guys are manifesting, and that needs to be celebrated. But at the same time, you really need to think about, what things could get in the way of it, because love is not enough. We have a life. We have, day-to-day bills and stresses. And another thing, that I didn't talk about in the lifestyle is if somebody has emotional issues.
Oh.
And that goes into the number one, the lifestyle, making sure your lifestyles match, but you don't know until you move in with somebody. So I would get into, going back to number one, the stressors that people have currently. So you're going to talk about bills and stuff and debt and all of that in your finance conversation, but really talking about what are your life stressors currently? Maybe somebody's parent is ill, or in the hospital, and that's something that they're dealing with right now. So even though you're dating and everything seems so hunky dory, when you move in with somebody, you're going to see that there are some life stressors and that you're jumping in without knowing. And that might take their time away from the relationship. So really diving into, what's really under the hood of this person in their life. And that's being vulnerable and sharing yours as well, just to see what's going to work, long term. So the reward, focusing on the reward, which to me is like an outcome.
Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to create? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to feel? But getting clear about what's going to stand in the way of that. So what I love is me and Andrew have always been a risk versus reward type of people. We always look at the things logistically. As you could tell, I had that conversation when we, in the beginning of our relationship. But I've kept that up up until now. I'm constantly looking at the beauty of things because that's where my mind usually goes first. Then it's like, okay, but what could happen? Right? Then I heard Tim Ferriss, he talked about this. I think I heard him talk about a practice that he does 2 years ago. And for a lack of I don't know what he calls this practice, but we're going to call it the risk versus reward practice. And it's, a way to structure kind of your fears and minimize those risks. So I kind of zhuzhed it up. What does he call it?
It's called the good versus bad risk.
The good versus bad risk.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you would do in the first column is, and we'll link his practice below.
Yeah.
We'll have our own TLC version. The first column, you're going to get specific about what it is that, you're wanting to create. What are the specifics? Detail out all the areas that you want to address, what's important. So moving in with somebody. So I want to move in with Johnny. Great. Okay. So that's one of the specifics. Then the second column, you're going to detail the risk. What's the risk? This is where you would put all your fears that you have with moving in with Johnny. It could be Johnny lives far away and I have a job here and I have a life here. So what am I going to do with X, Y, and Z? Johnny loves an entourage of people and I don't typically like that. What are my fears with this? So second column is really just like vomiting on paper all the fears that you have with what it is that you're trying to achieve, which is the move in with Johnny. Okay. The third column would be the risk minimizers. Those are kind of like, that's kind of how I outlined, with what I did with Andrew. I didn't have this, I didn't do columns or anything like that, but that's how I've always structured my life when I make really big decisions. So the risk minimizers, what are some of the things that you can do to decrease the likelihood of these fears? And what's true, right? So if moving in with Johnny, he, lives far away, you guys are having long distance relationships. This is something that you could pull from, and one of your fears is I'm leaving everything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm leaving my job. I'm leaving my good life. I have a lifestyle here. I like what I do. Then those are the fears, right? I would get into, I would add a separate, which is a separate column for possibilities.
Oh.
So before getting into the fourth column, which would be or I'm sorry, the fifth column, which would be repair, because I'm adding another column here.
Okay.
I would have, after risk minimizers, I would have possibilities. So, okay, yes, you're leaving your life. You're leaving a job that you love. You're leaving, the ins and outs of what you do daily that you love to do. But what are you gaining?
Yeah.
What are the possibilities? If you were to look 5 years from now, what is it that you're working towards? What's the amplified vision? Because if you don't see the amplified vision, then the risks might get in the way of you making that decision that could be good for you. But if there is an amplified vision, then that might work for you.
Yeah.
And then once you've gotten into the risk minimizers, what you would do to minimize those risks, and the grand vision. If I were to do this, I would go into Tim Ferriss calls it the repair, I believe. And I would say it's kind of like filling in the gap. So from the, what's the risk to your grand vision, you have your risk minimizers. So these are possibilities that you can do. I would highlight the actual possibility. So whether it's a conversation that needs to be had in the next week, or a conversation, or an action. Maybe it's an action that you have to take in the next coming month. I would get very, very specific. So looking at your risk minimizers, so it's actions that you can take. The repair would be, more so when. It's kind of like setting yourself that schedule, like when and how and what. His thing is, if these fears were to come true, what were the actions and options that you can take to repair? But I kind of feel that the risk minimizers do that.
Well, I guess, so would it be, say that you move and then you end up breaking up?
Yeah. I mean, the risks would be all the risks that you see.
Yeah.
Right. So that could be me quitting my job, our relationship not working out, me moving back, and then, I have nothing. These can be like all your fears would be in the what's the risk.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The risk minimizers are all options.
Yep.
Things that you could do to minimize each of those fears. And then the repair would be what you're going to actually do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are like, that's the way that I would structure it.
Yeah.
So first column, get specific about what it is that you're doing. That is going to be a big decision in your life. That's the big decision. Second column is what's the risk with that decision, or what are all the risks with that decision. That's like literally the column of your fears. Okay. The third column would be the risk minimizers. What are things that I can actually do that would minimize that risk, that might feel better? And maybe some of them you look at and you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. I don't really. Once you take a look at the risk, you're like, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I'll take that off of my list. But then there are actual risks that you have some risk minimizers, that those are actions that you can do. And then the third column would be that where your amplified vision, those are things that you would be gaining from taking this risk, taking this leap, making sure that when you see that, okay, that might mean more to me than the risk itself, or sometimes it's not. Maybe you look at it and you're like, you know what, this is way too risky for me. I'm not going to be, risk versus reward. The reward does not outweigh the risk at this moment. So I will sit back, and that is what I'm going to do. Or it's, no, this outweighs the risk. The reward is far greater. And then the repair is, okay, now that I've outlined the minimizers the things that I can do, and then I've seen that there's a grand vision and a great value with this, what's an action I can take right now?
Wow.
So that's what I would do. And that's what helped me unconsciously. I didn't, do an activity, but I thought that was really great that Tim Ferriss talked about it. Again, we're tweaking it in our own little feminine zhuzh way.
Ooh, and we'll make it into a little PDF and everyone can fill it out.
Yes.
So if you go to we'll link the article that it'll be on below so you guys can fill it out.
Yes. And And check out Tim Ferriss. He's amazing. We'll put his link too when he talks about this. And then, those are things that's the risk versus reward. So really getting clear about whether or not the decision you make benefits you and the relationship. Okay. The fifth one, this is the last one. Nobody wants to do it.
No.
Think about the end of the relationship. What will you both need if the relationship ends to make a smoother transition and to minimize risk?
Oh, it's like what I was talking about with the prenup earlier.
Yep.
Because it's planning for the end, but people don't like to think about the end of a relationship.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
However, though, because if you're getting a prenup, I think it's a good way to see how somebody could want to take care of you, not just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Because prenups aren't inherently bad, but I think they have a bad reputation.
Right.
That it's that people don't want to share their wealth with somebody that they're with.
Right.
But that necessarily isn't even the case.
No. Some of it, the prenup could be whatever you want it to be.
But it could be it could be they want to take care of you and they're setting it up legally to be able to take care of you.
Right. So we signed a prenup because, we're all about, and again, I will be honest, we didn't think that we were legally going to get married. So it didn't matter as much to me. I didn't want marriage anyways, so once we looked at our life as a whole, it made sense. And then having Rowan, it makes sense financially, legally, all of the things that come with it, for our life. That's not the love part. That's the business part. That is making sure our family's taken care of, making sure we are taken care of just in case something either happens to us or we end our relationship. That my son is fine, we're fine, and nobody is operating from fear mode. We're not ending our relationship fighting over who gets the fucking couch and who gets this. It is very clear, and we can move on in the most loving way and honor the relationship in the way that we need to. And so, yes, creating these structures creates more, it alleviates all of the fear and all of the resentment and all of the anger. And also everybody has clear expectations. And of course, those terms change throughout the relationship because, the relationship never changes, never stays the same. You might make more money in the coming years. You might make less money in the coming years. So, those terms always change as long as you guys are communicating, but getting in the practice and then thinking about what you're going to do if things don't work out for you. What are the things that, you have set up for yourself, and what are the things that you both can talk about that you can go back to if things were to end? Where, you feel comfortable and both people can leave, amicably,
And then nobody's staying in the relationship out of fear of what's going to happen if it ends. Because I think you were saying this earlier, a lot of people will stay because they have a fear of losing financial security or something.
Right.
But this way, okay, either I'm going to get this or I'm not going to get this, but what's going to happen if it ends.
Yes.
So that actually would give me peace of mind in a weird way.
Yes. It is. It creates a structure. It creates a security for both people. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows, what's going to happen if something happens. Nobody's left in the dark. Nobody is fighting for something that wasn't discussed. It's just everything is made clear. And a lot of the times it's, these structures are not to take away from the relationship. It's to make sure the relationship can flourish. That's what it is. And so although it sounds, but these are the things that end a lot of relationships because they go unnoticed, undiscussed. People have expectations of the relationships and, partners don't know of it. You move in with somebody and you don't really know their lifestyle. So things, when we think about the logistics of love, I would literally sit down and say, okay, what's your lifestyle? What do you do on a daily basis? Who do you hang out with? What's important to you? What family is important to you? Who, how often do you have to see your family? What do you guys do for traditions in Christmas? Oh, you don't celebrate Christmas? Are you okay with celebrating Christmas? Because my family celebrates Christmas. Oh, you are? Okay, well, we're going to go on this. So talking about these things, I want to continue working and I want to, this is kind of, I work from this time to this time, what's your hours? How are we going to spend time together when we move in together? How are we going to separate these bills? This is what I have. This is what you have. This is what I'm willing to take on based off my income level. Does this, feel right to both of us? If I'm not going to work, what am I going to do? How can I contribute to help you in this relationship? What were you going to say?
I just was thinking while you're talking.
Yeah.
We have a past podcast episode. It's episode number 72, but I'll link it. Things to think about before moving in with someone.
Yes.
And in the description, it says how to minimize risks in relationships.
Yes.
So this could be a good one for you guys to listen to after this.
Yes, definitely. So that's it. I mean, those are the 5 logistics I think are really, really important. And they can be expanded upon. I'm sure that there's like with lifestyle again, going into current stressors. That's something that came to mind as I was talking. Like, what are your current stressors right now? Even if someone is willing to be a breadwinner, I always put this in quotes because I think when you're in a relationship, both of you are pretty much fueling this, even though one person is making the money, you as a unit you're contributing as well. But anyways, if you were to, if you were to talk and dive into the stressors, maybe one person's stressors, even though they're willing to be the breadwinner, is money, and you need to know that, so that you can, make decisions that, feel right to you. And just, under lifestyle, it's an umbrella for a million things that you can talk about and open up. And these are just really important if you're trying to combine a life.
Do you want to I have 2 questions if you want to answer them. I think they're kind of similar though, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can take one for sure.
Okay. We'll just do this one.
Okay.
Good day.
Good day.
Good day. I've been contemplating a breakup for a little over 6 months now with my boyfriend of 2.5 years. My situation is a little more sticky than most, so hear me out. We met through a video game online and I was not ready for another online relationship since I lived in Florida and he lived in Illinois. I had to make the move because his parents refused to let him move to me. Since after a past long distance relationship, I knew it wasn't going to last long. I don't know what that means, sorry. So after a year of being together online, I moved to be with him. I've been here since June of 2019, and as much as I love the state, I have been wondering if it's my time to end the relationship. Point number 1, he doesn't have a job. I also failed to mention our ages. I am 24 in July, and he just turned 20. His parents treat him like a puppet, and if his mom says that he can't work, he will not work while he's in school. But I have to work. I have to pay for all the things apartment-wise, including groceries and gas, and as well as my car bill. He refuses, despite being out of his parents' house, to get a job. Even if I'm struggling. I'm also a full-time nursing student and he is a full-time marketing student. He does not show me much affection anymore, and if I want affection, I have to seek it out from him. We haven't had any intimate relations in over 2 months. This leaves me very frustrated because I am a very intimate individual, and when I first met him, I thought he was too. He spends all of his time playing video games, and sometimes it feels like his video games are more important than his relationship with me. He will put his conversations with people in a video games or in a Discord call above me, and it gets very old. Our communication always has been very bad, and I have tried to work on this, but it's super hard. At this point, and I know it's bad, but I just don't even bring things up that bother me because he will always flip it on me, and I end up crying and upset for the rest of the night. I feel bad because he's a great guy otherwise. He's a gentleman. He just doesn't do the above mentioned. That's a lot to...
Okay, so the first thing is I want to bring it back to very simply the wording, going back to the wording that she was using. I had to make the move.
Interesting.
That already lets me know that this was not the right decision for you. I had to make the move. That is taking power and control out of your hands, which you had full control over. And putting it on him. So already there's an expectation on him to serve you because you made the move. So that already sets you up for failure. The fact that, you knew that he couldn't move And this is, we have to be real. This is not to shame shame you, babe. But if you're listening, you knew, that he couldn't make a move. You probably already knew why he couldn't make the move, because you had to move. Those were your words. So you already knew that he was, he is living under the rules of his parents' demands, right? So they probably, are funding his life
100%.
Because he's going to school. And in order for them to continue funding his life, he has certain X, Y's, and Z's, which every parent has. If you're living, under your parents' rules, and you want, if you want to live your life, then you're going to have to cut ties financially from your parents. But you knew that he couldn't, and he wouldn't, because you had to move. Okay. Then you move, and you already had these expectations that things are going to be rosy posy because you made this grand gesture, and things are not. But he kind of showed that to you prior to you moving. You met through a video game, and now you're confused as to why he is so, tied to the video games and communication. You guys met through the communication of this video game, and now he's continuing communicating with other people on the video game. That's how you met him, right? He's not shown you anything else besides who he is, and it is not working for you because it is not enough for you. But because you're constantly trying to, you have these expectations for the relationship that are not going to be matched, because you have different values, you have a different way of seeing life, you have a different thing that you want to do. You're the one who's like working and doing X, Y's, and Z's, and you're growing up and being a woman and adulting, and the person that you're trying to make a life with is still under the rules of their parents. So as you're adulting, this person is not capable of doing that, and not at this time, while parents are pretty much significant in their world. But going back to the wording, I had to make the move. You didn't have to do anything. You did this, and then now it's not fueling you, it's not feeling right, and you're seeing the reality of the situation, but you didn't look at everything before making that move. So we really just need to start there. Going back to the terms of this relationship, well, you're 24, he's 20. It already doesn't seem like you guys are on the same page. And I hate to talk about relationships in black or white, but this is pretty black or white, unless there's he does a major cutoff from his parents, which can happen because I'm not, psychic or anything. If he cut ties with his parents and is like, okay, now I can live my life and like focus on this relationship, but he's 20 years old, and women are, especially since you've already been thinking about your life and you're already working towards your life and you're already doing adulting things, I don't foresee this turning around in the way that you want it to. I definitely don't think that he'll be the same man for a long time, but I think that while he's going to school, he's still living out his kid's dreams, because 20, I know it doesn't seem, young to you, but 20 to me
seems so young.
It's, a lifetime ago, and who I am now versus 20 is completely different. Let's just say that. And for a young man, I wouldn't even say it's just teetering on late teenage years to adulthood. They're still trying to figure out, what it is that they want to do. And so he has the easy life right now.
Yeah. And if he wanted to cut ties with his parents, he would have done it.
Right.
But also, I feel like she would have had to have known that this was the situation with his parents prior to moving.
Right.
And that if they wanted to live together, he wouldn't be able to work. So the financial burden is going to be on her.
Yes.
And if he said that was what it's going to be, she should take his word that that's what the situation was going to be.
Absolutely. So I would say this from all the expectations that I see, again, you can't place expectations on people, but from the things that you're asking for, this is not the person that's going to be able to give that to you. And
maybe later in life,
maybe not. I honor you though. I honor you for, again, who knows in time, again, if he makes a grand gesture also, of cutting ties, then there might be some potential. But I think for everything that you're asking for, which I don't think is unreasonable. I think that you need to be realistic in the expectations, especially for the person that you're asking from.
And appreciate that, his side, because if his parents are paying for college and their only stipulation is we don't want you to work because we want you to focus on school, you can't really blame him if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. And also, his parents are like, hey, we'll take care of all this if you go to school.
My dad did the same thing with me.
Yeah. What did you do?
He's like, no, you literally have to live he wouldn't let me live off campus. And it was way cheaper to live off campus. But he wanted to be able to control everything I did. So I cut ties with him. And then I was broke working at a restaurant.
Yeah.
But I was happier because I didn't feel like I was being controlled. But I knew the risk I was taking by not having the financial security. But I was gaining my independence. And that was more important to me than having him finance my life.
And Chrissy just did that exercise and put it into work, Who
knew I did that at 18 though, and I had no idea.
Right. So this is just unconsciously, these are the things that we do that I think would help, bringing it into the conscious, and making sure that, we're bringing this to light and looking at like the risks, like, and making sure that the reward outweighs it and that you're willing to take that risk, and risk a little money in your pocket because you want to gain freedom, and that feels way more empowering than being under your dad's thumb. So, can this relationship, there's our opportunity. I think all relationships have opportunity, or most relationships. So yes, if he cuts ties, but I don't foresee that happening.
I don't either.
So I have to be real with you. So I think we'll leave it there. And if you guys have any more questions that you want to leave below, let us know. And I hope this all helps. And if you want us to go a little deeper, let us know.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Yay! All right, ladies. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. And until next time.